Senate Financial Institutions and Insurance Committee to order. It's good to have all of you back. We do have a new member. Congratulations, Senator Cluse. Glad to have you. I would, for those that are online and maybe new to the audience, if we could just briefly introduce ourselves, what district we represent and where we're from. Senator Dietrich, I'll start on this side.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brenda Dietrich, I represent the 20th District in Topeka, right here in Topeka. I've been on this committee last year and this year. Anything else? Happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Senator Jeff Pittman. I represent Senate District 5, and that's Leavenworth, Lansing, and Western Wyandotte.
Hi, I'm Senator Cindy Holscher from District 8, which is Overland Park around the Johnson County Community College area. Oh, and the Oak Park Mall, everybody knows where that is.
My name is Senator Mike Fagg. I represent District 14, which is a 10-county area that goes east of Wichita. I actually live in El Dorado, but there's 10 counties out there, so.
Okay, and I'm the new kid on the block, so go easy on me. Senator Rick Cluse, 19th District, and that's kind of East Shawnee, all of Osage County, West Douglas, and a small portion of Jefferson.
Senator Richard Hildebrand. I represent the 13th District, which is extreme southeast Kansas. You can't go any farther south, you can't go any farther east and still be in Kansas, but you are in God's country, which is Cherokee County, Crawford County, the southern part of Bourbon County with Fort Scott, one little small township, including the metropolitan city of Chautauqua and Labette County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Beverly Gossage, and I represent District 9, which is in Johnson County. So it goes to the Douglas County border. It includes DeSoto, Northern Gardner, Olathe, Shawnee, Lenexa are all a little bit a part of that large geographic area for Johnson County, and I'm pleased to be on this committee.
Thank you, Senators. And now Senator Olson came in. Senator, would you introduce yourself?
Senator Olson from Olathe. All my districts in Olathe, I represent about 65% of it. So, been here. This is my 18th session. So, if you don't know me, you're new. Thank you.
Okay, those that, not that we're not important, but the most important people, I'd like for them to introduce themselves, and that is our staff for this committee.
Office assistant and committee assistant, and this is my 10th season.
I'm Iraida Orr with the Kansas Legislative Research Department, and this is my 12th season.
Connor Stengler, Kansas Legislative Research Department, and this is my 2nd session.
Melissa Rennick, also with Legislative Research, and this is number 20.
And I'm Eileen Ma from the Office of Revisor of Statutes, and this is my 8th session, all with FI&I.
Welcome to everybody. We're glad to have you. Look forward to a very productive year. You have an agenda in front of you. In your packet are the committee rules. There are no changes from last year's rules that we used, and so just provided a copy of those for your reference. There are some changes to guidelines for conferees, and I want to make sure that everyone understands that. There's been confusion on whether conferees needed to provide electronic testimony, whether they needed to make 30 copies, whether they needed to bring the copies. We are going to handle in this committee as you will submit all of your testimony electronically, and it needs to be within the guidelines noon the previous day, unless that's on a holiday, as next Monday will be, and so that then it would be due the previous Friday at noon. We will not make copies for anybody other than those that are serving on the committee. So we will make hard copies out of the electronic testimony and provide those in your packet, but we will not provide paper copies for those that are in the spectator stands. And so you'll need to refer to that testimony either electronically or print your own copies before the meeting begins. We've also included a registration and testimony submission form that's available. It's also available online. When you submit your testimony, please use that so that we have a better understanding of who is going to be testifying, what bill it's on, and that we have the testimony attached to it. The committee members all have a bill index from last year showing our actions and what bills we passed out, what bills did not get out of committee, which died on the floor and whatever, so you can refer to that. There's also a seating chart and committee staff phone extensions if you need that. Any questions on any of that housekeeping type material? Okay, we are going to receive an update on committee bill status by our committee staff. Irida, I think you are going to kick it off.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We're going to do a review of the green memo in front of you. It'll be presented by myself and then Connor Stangler and Melissa Rennick. And I will begin with kind of giving you an overview of what's happened in the area of insurance. This memo addresses those bills that were enacted that were addressed by this committee during the 2021 session, and also those that are passed out of committee and are still out there somewhere waiting for action. The bills enacted are the first topic to discuss. Senate Bill 37 is the insurance producer licensing requirements, and it amends provisions governing agent licensing and renewal licensure requirements in the Uniform Agents Licensing Act and in the Public Adjusters Licensing Act, and also amends the statute governing the examination of applicants for agent licensure. The bill also provides for an exemption and an extension in complying with the continuing education requirements of licensed insurance agents serving on active duty in the National Guard or Armed Services of the United States for a specified period of time. The bill also requires certification by pre-need only insurance agents that the agent transacted no other insurance business. The next bill is House Sub for Senate Bill 78, which has various bills incorporated in that. It's the NAIC Credit for Reinsurance Model Regulation, amendments to insurance-related acts, Healthcare Stabilization Fund Law, risk-based capital instructions. You will note in the summary that I've included the version of each of the bills that was actually included in House Sub for Senate Bill 78. The amendments to the insurance code pertain to credit for reinsurance, service contracts, surplus lines of insurance, the standard non-forfeiture law for individual deferred annuities, the Utilization Review Organization Act, and oversight of utilization review organizations and risk retention groups. The bill also amends the Insurance Company Holding Act, the Professional Employer Organization Registration Act, the effective date for the risk-based capital instructions, promulgated by the NAIC, and certain coverage and oversight requirements in the Healthcare Provider Insurance Availability Act. The bill also repeals the Automobile Club Services Act and a statute relating to the power of the Commissioner of Insurance to examine and investigate into the affairs of persons engaged in the business of insurance to determine whether any unfair methods of competition or unfair or deceptive act or practice has occurred. The next one is House Bill 2379, the Peer-to-Peer Vehicle Sharing Program. This bill became effective from and after January 1, 2022, and its publication in the statute book. It essentially allows for the authorized use of a shared vehicle by an individual other than the shared vehicle owner's owner through the P2P program, as we will call it. And the P2P Vehicle Sharing Program is a business platform that connects vehicle owners with drivers to enable the sharing of vehicles for financial consideration. This bill has pretty lengthy details, but among other things, the bill requires, with exceptions specified in the bill, that the P2P Vehicle Sharing Program is to assume the liability of an owner for bodily injury or property damage to third parties for uninsured and underinsured motorists or personal injury protection losses during the vehicle sharing period in amounts stated in the P2P Vehicle Sharing Program agreement. And the bill requires coverage to be not less than the coverage required by the Kansas Automobile Injury Reparations Act. You will notice there are several bills that were recommended for passage by this committee. And this concludes the status here of each of those bills. Senate Bill 199 was a short-term limited duration health plan. It was referred to the House Committee on Insurance and Pensions and did not have a hearing, but those contents were inserted into Senate Bill 29 by the Conference Committee. And the governor vetoed Senate Bill 29, and the motion to override that veto failed. Senate Bill 290 was increasing the Health Care Stabilization Fund minimum professional liability insurance coverage requirements, changing the membership of the Board of Governors for such fund, and adding options and increasing time for service of process thereon. It was referred to the House Committee on Insurance, did not have a hearing. The House version, House Bill 2380, was enacted in House sub for Senate Bill 78. House Bill 2134 was updating NAIC credit for reinsurance model law and codifying the credit for reinsurance model regulation. And the contents pertaining to the introduced version of this bill were inserted again into House sub for Senate Bill 78 as recommended by the House Committee. This bill was then taken by the House Education the Education Conference Committee, and the appropriations for State Department of Education were inserted therein. House Bill 2136 is updating certain statutes relating to the regulation of business of insurance, granting the Commissioner of Insurance certain investigative powers. This was amended by this committee, passed in the Senate, but no conference committee was appointed. The Senate version, Senate Bill 78, was enacted. This bill appears on the House calendar as a bill under consideration to concur or non-concur, but the contents have been addressed. And if you'd like, I'd turn it over to Mr. Stangler to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Connor Stengler, Kansas Legislative Research Department. I'm going to review the bills enacted under the financial institutions category, along with the status of bills recommended for passage on the next following page. So first, SB 15, Kansas Economic Recovery Loan Deposit Program, Credit Unions, Field of Membership, Privilege Tax Deductions. And just a quick note, you'll see below that SB 86, there's a note at the end of the SB 15 paragraph that certain provisions of this bill are amended by SB 86, so just keep that in mind. SB 15 establishes the Kansas Economic Recovery Loan Deposit Program, amends law governing linked deposit programs and related investment procedures, amends field of membership requirements placed on state chartered credit unions to increase the permissible geographic area for a credit union's field of membership, and permits national banking associations, state banks, trust companies, and savings and loan associations for all taxable years commencing after December 2022 to deduct from net income the net interest income received from qualified agricultural real estate loans and the net interest income received from single-family residence loans to the extent such interest is included in the Kansas taxable income of a corporation. Now, SB 86, this was loan deposit programs and the Extraordinary Utility Cost Loan Deposit Program. This created the Kansas Extraordinary Utility Cost Loan Deposit Program, which will provide incentives for the making of loans to eligible borrowers for the extraordinary natural gas costs incurred during the extreme winter weather event of February 2021. It also amends law governing the investment of state monies to add program loans and applicable interest rates, and modifies provisions governing the city utility low interest loan program. As I said, the 2021 legislature had previously passed SB 15, the Recovery Loan Deposit Program, SB 86, the provisions relating to the loan deposit program were repealed and reenacted within SB 86, changing the effective date to the Kansas Register, publication in the Kansas Register. Moving on to the next page, SB 178, the trust company charter conversions. This amends provisions in the Kansas Banking Code governing organization and supervision to permit a national bank, Federal Savings Association, or Federal Savings Bank to convert to a state trust company. The bill also permits a trust company to convert its charter to one of the above-named financial institutions. The bill updated references to include trust companies in law pertaining to renewal and extension of articles of incorporation, stockholder vote for conversion to a state bank, stockholder vote for conversion to a national bank, and prohibition against felons serving as directors, officers, or employees. The bill also establishes a naming standard to require the name selected for a state trust company to be different or substantially dissimilar from the name of any other trust company doing business in the state. Senate sub for HB 2074, this was the Technology-Enabled Fiduciary Financial Institutions Act. You'll see FidFin mentioned throughout and in other places that refers to fiduciary financial. So this enacts the act, and then on July 1st, 2021, the bill requires the State Bank Commissioner to issue a conditional charter to the beneficent company and establish a FidFin fiduciary institution pilot program with an economic growth zone designated in Harvey County. The bill also establishes an income and privilege tax credit beginning in tax year 21 for trust banks in an amount equal to such FidFin institutions' qualified charitable distributions during such taxable year if the trust bank maintains such FidFin institution's office in an economic growth zone. Finally, the first-time homebuyer savings account. HB 2187 enacts the first time that act and establishes modifications to the Kansas adjusted gross income of an individual for contributions to a first-time homebuyer savings account. Mr. Chairman, just to go back to 2074, I will mention that it also, it's not listed there, but it also established the Joint Committee on FidFin Oversight, and that's part of that, the OSBC is required to appear before that Joint Committee annually to provide an update on FidFin institutions. And just very quickly, the status of bills recommended for passage. SB 30, this was recommended for passage by the Senate Committee on Insurance, when briefly last year there was the Senate Committee on Financial Institutions and the Senate Committee on Insurance. It was passed over by the Senate Committee of the Whole, withdrawn from the calendar, and referred to this committee, FI&I. SB 245, this was the financing of electrical corporations through the issuance of securitization bonds. This was to recover energy transition costs for electric public utilities. The contents were enacted in Senate sub for HB 2072. And finally, SB 288. This was the one, the Technology-Enabled Trust Bank Act. The amended contents were inserted into 2074, which I covered earlier. So without any questions, I will hand it over to Melissa Rennick to talk about the pensions bills.
Thank you, Connor.
Chairman Longvine, committee members, the final section reviews those bills that are considered retirement and pensions matters. The first bill is familiar to this committee, House Bill 2063. It revises the benefits for the members of the KP&F system who are Tier 2 members, meaning those employees who were hired since July 1, 1989, who are disabled and ultimately die due to a service-connected condition, as that term is defined in law. The bill applied to the deaths that occurred on and after January 1st, 2017, and designated those amendments as the Michael Wells Memorial Act. This committee heard that bill on March 11th, placed it on the consent calendar the same day, and it passed the Senate 35-0. The next bill that's listed came 2243. It made some recommendations regarding the study that is performed by the KPERS Board of Trustees, and that was the base bill. There are other measures that were contained. It became the Retirement Conference Committee report, and so also included in the bill that was ultimately concurred to and sent to the governor was the authorization of the allotment of the KPERS Death and Disability Program and a moratorium on payments in fiscal year 2021 by all employers. You may remember, this was a budget proposal for state employers and state employees, and in order to synchronize that measure for local employees, that had to go through legislation. So Senate Bill 265 is introduced, was included in the conference report. It also includes provisions pertaining to the DROP, the Deferred Retirement Option Program Act, regarding member election and extension of their drop period from 3 to up to 5 years, and not permitting any change in the participation. So those had to be consecutive service. This was House Bill 2064 as amended by the House Committee on Pensions. Ultimately, House Bill 2064 was used in the Education Conference, so its provisions were included here. And finally, Senate Bill 86, as Connor mentioned, was used for the Extraordinary Utility Cost Program. And so this, the underlying bill was included in the conference report, and that is the administration of certain CAPERS benefits and changes to the federal and Internal Revenue Code provisions in what had been called the guidepost section. There were some technical changes that were needed in Kansas law, and so those were made. The final page just includes Senate Bill 265, and as you recall, that's the Death and Disability Employer Contribution Moratorium. That bill itself is retained in the House Committee on Insurance and Pensions, but again, its content has been enacted in House Bill 2243. So, Mr. Chairman, that is the summary from KLRD, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Melissa. Committee, are there any questions of KLRD staff on the bills that were passed out of committee last year? I see none. We'll now turn our attention to Eileen, who is going to give us an overview of the bills that are still in committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I apologize in advance for my voice. I am not contagious. I did not have COVID. This is the residual of the first cold I've had in many years, and apparently it was a doozy. So again, I apologize in advance for my voice. Enjoy the relative peace and quiet. For those of you who know me, you know it's killing me not to be able to speak as much as I would like to. So these are the bills remaining in committee. At the start of this legislative session, there were 11 Senate and 2 House bills remaining as carryover from last session. Senate Bill 30 was an insurance department bill that established the Securities Act Victim Restitution Program. The program created would allow certain victims of securities violations to apply for and receive restitutions for damages suffered through securities violations. The bill was heard on January 26th of 2021 and was passed as amended by this committee on January 28th of 2021. On February 18th, Senate Bill 30 was taken off of the Senate calendar and re-referred to this committee. Senate Bill 48 was a bill sponsored by Senator Sykes that would require certain insurance coverage for diagnostic examinations for breast cancer. The bill was heard on February 3rd of 2021, and no further action was taken by this committee. Senate Bill 82 is a bill that was sponsored by Senate, Fed, and State and referred to this committee. The bill would limit utilization review conducted by health plans under certain circumstances involving the treatment of mental illness or substance abuse disorder. This is the Christy L. Bennett Mental Health Parity Act. No action was taken on the bill. Senate Bill 114 is a bill that would allow certain governmental entities and self-insurers to reject uninsured motorist and personal injury coverage. No action was taken on this bill by the committee. Senate Bill 128 is one of 2 bills introduced last year or last session, and I'll refer to these as PBMs. Senate Bill 128 relates to the federal 340B drug program, and it prohibited disparate treatment by PBMs of certain pharmacies and pharmaceutical services providers. No action was taken on the bill by this committee. I will note at this point that there was a joint committee during the interim that was convened to study the federal 340B program. Senate Bill 135 is a KP&F bill that would provide for membership in the KP&F retirement system for security officers of the Department of Corrections. This bill was scheduled for a hearing on February 16th of last year, but the hearing was subsequently canceled. Senate Bill 218 was sponsored by Fed and State, and it would provide certain restrictions, reporting, and certain other requirements for alternative small installment loans made under the Uniform Consumer Credit Code, the UCCC. The bill received an informational hearing on March 24th of 2021, and no further action was taken on the bill. Senate Bill 225 is another KP&F bill. The bill would provide affiliation with the KP&F retirement system by the Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism for membership of certain law enforcement officers and employees. The bill was heard on February 23rd of 2021, and again, no further action was taken on this bill. Senate Bill 242 is a bill that was requested by the OSBC. The bill was to reorganize the Kansas Mortgage Business Act, the KMBA. The bill would remove certain provisions of relating to mortgages from the UCCC and incorporate those provisions within the KMBA. And the bill was heard on February 17th of last year, and no further action was taken on the bill by this committee. Senate Bill 243 is a bill that would enact the Peer-to-Peer Vehicle Sharing Act to provide insurance liability, record keeping, and other consumer protection requirements. No further action was taken on Senate Bill 243, but as you heard earlier, the provisions of Senate Bill 243 were enacted within House Bill 2379. Senate Bill 244 is the second of the two PBM bills that I referenced. Senate Bill 244 would provide for enhanced regulation of pharmacy benefits managers and require them to be licensed and regulated through the Department of Insurance instead of registered through the Department of Insurance, and no action was taken on this bill. House Bill 2236 is a bill that would generally authorize an appraiser to exclude the sales comparison approach under certain circumstances when developing an appraisal of certain residential real property. And a financial institution would not be allowed to decline to proceed with a mortgage transaction due to such exclusion. The bill was passed by the House Committee of the Whole on a vote of 122-0 and referred to this committee on March 19th of last year, and no action was taken on this bill by the committee. And lastly, House Bill 2380 is a bill that would limit the the House Healthcare Stabilization Fund minimum professional liability coverage requirements and the composition of its Board of Governors. The bill passed the House Committee of the Whole on a vote of 104-20 and was referred to this committee on March 31st. And again, as you heard earlier, while no action was taken on this bill, the contents were passed and signed into law within House Bill 78 during conference. And with that, Mr. Chair, I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Committee, are there any questions on the bills that are still remaining in committee? I see none. Thank you. I would like to call your attention to some important dates as we move forward. You can refer to your session planner, but January the 31st is the last day for individuals to request member-sponsored bill drafts. That seems like a long ways away, but really it's only 3 weeks. And so please keep that date in mind. February 7th is the last day for non-exempt committees to request bill drafts. Also seems like a long ways away, but is not. And then on February the 21st will be our last day to meet prior to turnaround. So 3 key dates that you'll certainly want to keep in mind if you have legislation that you would like to propose or that you would like to have heard before the committee. That concludes our work for today. Tomorrow, we will have a presentation from the credit union supervisor along with Heartland Credit Union Association. On Thursday, we will have a presentation from the State Banking Commissioner's Office along with KBA. So that will conclude our week. Friday, we are pro forma, don't intend to meet on Friday, and then also next Monday is a holiday. So unless committee members have other business that we need to handle, see none, so I'll consider us adjourned.